luckily, we've managed to drag Howard in, actually after he paid to come as a guest, so he's here as a paying panel member. But in terms of Howard, I actually met Howard about 2 years ago, do you remember? And Howard runs a company called Retail Asia. You basically work with large retail companies and put together strategies on how to hit revenue targets, huge companies like Tesco's and those sort of things. So I'm sure big data is part of that, in a way, or no? No. But you know about the GDPR stuff. There is a reason why.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And Paul Phoenix is the director of biddable operations at a company called ADA, which basically means he's in charge of people who are in charge of people who run Google advertising. Paul has put together some slides. He can be super technical, so if you don't understand it, let me know. If I don't understand it, I will ask him questions. And that's it, I guess. I'll let you start.
Okay. Is this on? Yes? Okay. Yes, I don't manage people who manage people who manage people. There's another layer in there, so you got that close. Okay. I work for a pan-Asian company. We deal with a lot of advertising from Google and Facebook. Mainly Facebook right now, although things are changing, and probably for the better the way things are happening with Facebook. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to run through this scenario so you know what it's about, and I'll talk a little bit about what Google and Facebook know about you, and then we'll have some questions. Okay? So let's go. Wrong way. Good start. Okay. Okay. This is basically the consumer traffic every month. It's in petabytes, and what I've done here is I've actually shown a little bit here about what petabytes are for those of you that actually do the pub quizzes, because it comes up occasionally, so have a look at that. It's the most useful information there actually. But there's 232,000 petabytes of consumer data. That doesn't include all the stuff from companies and stuff. That's basically consumer stuff in the airwaves every month. Wrong way again. I'll get it sooner or later. This is the number of internet users. Now, last year we're up to 3 3.5 billion users as of last year. Obviously growing all the time. And what's quite surprising is that there's 2 billion of those are on Facebook. And 1.5 billion on YouTube. Google's revenue worldwide last year, $109 billion from advertising mainly. That's why it's a huge business for them. And Facebook, quite a way behind, 400 million. 40 billion, sorry, 40 billion.
Sorry, I'm not sure if they can see this. What are the numbers compared to Facebook?
Google's 109 billion and Facebook is 40 billion.
And by Google you mean YouTube as well?
And YouTube is part of Google, yes. So Google's revenue 109 billion and Facebook less than half of that. But still a good deal. 40 billion is, their actual profit was 15 billion. Google and Facebook, they make their money from ads, as we all know, and they are based on data from a variety of sources. From Google and Facebook, a lot of stuff we voluntarily share with them, particularly with Facebook. You tell them everything voluntary, and then some people whinge about it later, but it's a bit late for that. They also look at all your behavior, not just from themselves, but from everything on your phone, everything is linked, everything that you actually give consent to actually download. It's collected from other non-digital sources as well, many touch points with stores, from online transaction, credit cards, loyalty cards, phone apps, telephone, ad exchanges. It comes from practically everywhere. And what we do is when we're using data for advertising, there's three parties: first party, second party, third party. The first party data is data that we collect directly from yourselves, data that you give to us, or companies give to companies. As a customer, you'll give them your name, your address, various stuff like that, social data.
So, like when you register for something, if you buy something, anytime that you're filling in your information?
With a company. First party data is with a particular company or organisation. It can also include non-online information, surveys, customer feedback. All of these things are first party data. First party data is probably the most accurate data we use. It's cost effective, I would say it's free, it's easy to collect, and the privacy concerns surrounding first party data are minimal because you know where it came from, you own it, you store it, and you control it. Second party data is relatively new actually. Second party data is basically first party data that you buy direct from a company. So it's got all the same securities you got from the first party data, except that you've just purchased it. I guess it's the same thing really. It is basically just boils down to it is first party data that's been purchased as a unit. And it comes from the same sources. Third party data, this is the one that we use mainly for advertising. This is the one that you see on Facebook all the time, all the remarketing stuff you get. This is basically third party data. Third party data is data that aggregators buy. They buy data from everywhere and they aggregate it, they mine it, they do various things with it once they have it, and then they sell it on. The nice thing about third party data is it scales, it's huge, and it is probably the most useful for marketing, although it's not the most accurate. Several things you should be aware of when you're buying third party data. You need to know where the information comes from, just so you can actually have an idea of how accurate it is and how you're going to use it. Sometimes it comes as declared data, so you know where it comes from. It can be inferred data. Inferred data is where we have 3 points of data and we actually infer a fourth or fifth or sixth from that. For instance, someone's been in a particular area 4 or 5 times, or someone's phone is every night is in the same place, so the inferred data is that's where they live. Observed data is data that we get from websites, online activity, product pages. It's the kind of stuff that we do through online tracking. And after aggregating this data, the companies, they will categorize it into a lot of different companies, and then they sell it on to advertising companies or anyone else that has use for the data. An example of some of the people that actually sell data, you just notice some of them up there, people like MasterCard. Some of these companies are just data providers. Otami is a big data provider that recently had to purge about 400 million users from how bad it was. One of the other things about a lot of this data is we don't know how new it is, so often you can be using data that's 6 months old. Obviously it's not that good. And this brings us into the recent Facebook Cambridge Analytica fiasco. Very good advertising from an advertising point of view. They used a lot of third-party data and first-party data that was obtained through surveys. Then they added a lot of inferred data on top of that, and they used it effectively, not just in America, but in several places. So, what kind of information do Facebook and Google store about us? Well, Google stores your location. If you've it stores your location. If you have it turned on every time you turn on your phone, you can see on your timeline from the first day you started using Google on your phone. It stores search history across all your devices on a separate database. So even if you delete your search history on your phone, Google still has everything that you own elsewhere, and it can do this on all devices. It stores information on every app and extension that you use, how often you use them, where you use them, who you use them to interact with, i.e. who you talk to on Facebook, what countries you're speaking to, what time you go to sleep, etc. It stores all of your YouTube history, so it knows if you will be a parent soon, if you're conservative, progressive, or your religion, it knows your mood, it knows all of this stuff by your data and inferred data. It stores your bookmarks, your email contacts, your drive files, practically everything you do with Google, who you buy with through them, everything there, it's all stored. It stores your calendar history, your hangout sessions, your location history, the music you listen to, books you've purchased, Google groups you're in, websites you've created, phones you've joined, how many steps you walk in a day if you've got an app. It practically just stores everything about you.
Sorry, but just to clarify. When you say it's looking at our YouTube history, it knows if I'm Catholic or if it knows if I'm,
It's
whatever. It's assuming it based on what I'm watching. It doesn't know anything. It's just assuming based on my behaviour. Is that right?
It's partly on your behaviour, partially on what you tell it. It will always use data you tell it first, but obviously if not, it will use inferred data. And the more data points it has, the more accurate it will be.
Okay, but what you're saying in terms of it knows this about you, it doesn't actually know. It just knows your behaviour.
It doesn't know you.
So I could be
The only thing though is it doesn't know you. It knows all your actions and behaviour, it just doesn't know who you are. And I don't think it cares actually. It's not the police.
And this all ties back to marketing, right? So this is the whole reason why.
Yeah. What's surprising though, if you don't have a Google account, it has what it calls canvas fingerprinting, so it gives you an account based on other things that you do as well, okay? So even if you don't have a Gmail account and stuff, Google will still have some information on you from your IP address. Your IP address may be shared, so that's going to be a bit mumbled, but it will have data on your property, on your computers, on your phone. Facebook stores every time you log into Facebook, where you've logged in from and what time, and from what device. Every message you've sent, every file you've sent, all the contacts on your phone, your audio messages that you ever sent through an app, things like Messenger. If you upload Messenger and you accept it, it uploads all your phone books, so it knows who your friend phone books are. It may well match them with data it already has from Facebook, what we've already given it, because a lot of people give their phones, some don't, but it will map all that again across every surfaces. They store all the applications you've used. They know what you're interested in politics, etc. Again, by what you do, it knows. It says it knows if you're single. If you're on Tinder, that's probably not true, but it will think you're single. It knows if you've got a new phone number. They also store everything you may be interested in, everything you've liked, what you talk about with your friends, etc. That's not true, that last statement.
We don't believe that.
And somewhat ponderously, it actually stores every sticker that you sent on Facebook as well. And I've absolutely no idea why they do that, but they do. Right, the interesting bit is changing all of this. From tomorrow, from the 25th of May, the EU will be bringing in a new general data protection regulation. This has changed the way that things are going to happen. It is actually only based in the EU, but it applies to EU citizens wherever they are. It applies if you actually work with any EU company, etc. One of the interesting points earlier, I said that Google made $109 billion. Probably around about 17% of that is made in the EU, but they've still gone compliant worldwide on the GDPR. So they're actually taking it seriously. Facebook have gone a lot more, but that's probably because they've got their butt kicked with the Cambridge Analytica. So they've actually really pushed out, and they're actually making it quite difficult for advertisers right now. Over the next few weeks, it may back off because they'll start to lose a lot of money. So yeah, Facebook panicked when Facebook panicked with the Cambridge Analytica staff. And I mean, I say Facebook now, a lot of stuff we use, like custom audience and stuff, they've already blocked. As I said, EU only counts for 20%. Okay, so that's what I have for now. Before we go, I just have to play a quick video for you as well, which is somewhere here. Tisha, where's the video?
Click on that.
Customer data, you got tons of it, and you know your customer. Customer data, you got tons of it, and you know your customer. Take Jack, for example. Jack loves waffles. How do you know? Because Sunday Jack said so on social. And last Friday, he'd been searching for a waffle maker in your online store. Boom! Now you're ready to talk to him. Because you know Jack. Except Jack was actually just carving up for a 5K at the end of the week. He's not so much a waffle freak as a fitness freak. But you already assigned him to a target audience, so you're still talking to him about all things waffle. Jack deletes the email without opening it, and then he ignores your SMS, and closes your ad. So you don't know Jack. And to give Jack an experience that would have actually been right for him, you should have had an AI-powered platform that connects all of your data to show that he's not obsessed with brunch, he's obsessed with running. You also would have known that Jack is actually Jacqueline. If you don't know data, you don't know Jack.
Okay, the reason I've shown that is because once you only got certain data points, you can get things very, very wrong. The more data we have, the more we use it, the more we cross-match, the better we'll be at actually advertising the correct things to you. Okay, so that's it. That's the presentation. So questions?
Hi, my name is Michael, and I had a question about the limitations for the advertisers and talent. You said that Facebook's making it harder for the advertiser as of tomorrow.
Facebook's already started making it harder. It's not just talent, it's worldwide.
So what are the specifics of making it harder?
A lot of things that we use. We use custom audiences, where we actually upload audiences based on information that we've bought from elsewhere, information we've collected, information we've used in other campaigns. They're now preventing us from uploading these as target audiences, which is the backbone of a lot of Facebook advertising.
Is that true for every company that's advertising on Facebook?
That's Facebook's doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just understand? That's because they haven't asked for consent from every person in the audience.
That's GDPR. Facebook are going to comply with the GDPR. That's their role. They actually started this already. They panicked after the Cambridge Analytica stories, and they're kind of regrouping. I'm sure a lot of stuff that they've actually blocked, panicked, they're going to come back out again because it's costing them a lot of money.
Okay.
So all the old database sets that you collected, you can't use anymore in the future of your target audience profile?
On Facebook?
On Facebook, yeah.
At the moment, yes, we have an issue. Technically, the GDPR, we need to get consent, so we shouldn't be using any audiences we have already unless we can prove consent. But we're not in Europe, so how things will go, I don't know. Google are doing the same thing. Google have tightened stuff up. Less so than Facebook. Google are very wise. They sit down there and they stay quiet and they just do stuff and they seem to get away with it.
Just back to the GDPR, we spoke to a chap earlier today who said he spent the whole day getting things ready for tomorrow. just to clarify, as I think a lot of business here may have a HQ or may have some affiliation with a UK business. What is the likelihood of them having to make any changes to their websites as of tomorrow? Who needs to make those changes in terms of the GDPR changes?
Is that something you want to answer? As a GDPR expert? Okay. From tomorrow, you'll have probably seen a lot of it today. Many of you will be receiving emails from people that say they're changing their privacy policy. They've all done that because they've put the new rules into their privacy policy. They'll start using in the EU. They've always had the banner that comes up and says we use cookies, and they'll have to expand on that and tell you what they use them for. So that will be the same. You'll find that most people will just click it as they go past because they just want to look at the website. There will be some people that will stop it, but generally the consensus in advertising is it's not going to be that big a deal, but we'll have to wait and see. The fact that Facebook have blocked stuff already, Facebook advertising is obviously taking a dent, but it will come back. And what about...
Ask me a question.
On the GDPR. What was the question, Robert, about
I guess for me, I run a marketing company, but my clients are locally based in Thailand. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as their clients are still again based within Thailand or outside of the EU, nothing changes for me.
Well, technically, if they've got EU citizens on board, then you'll be breaking the law. But the question is, how will they ever enforce it when you're here?
Okay.
That's a question.
Okay, let me introduce myself as a paying panel member. I came along to be educated like you. I represent a company called Hansel International UK, and Hansel work for Santander, the European bank, who have had 60 consultants working with them for the last 18 months. And their budget was 60, has this been recorded? Okay, so their budget was significant, and it was being driven by the legal team who were obviously worried about the compliance issues for a bank in the UK with personally identifiable information. And so the legal people knew that the fine is 4% of global sales value, or a fine up to 20 billion euros. So in the UK, it's being taken has been taken very seriously, because the EU GDPR was made law 2 years ago, and it's being enforced as from tomorrow. So people have had a 2-year window in order to get themselves ready. And not having prepared myself to give a presentation, but the Reader's Digest version is that if you're a data controller or a data processor of people's personally identifiable information, and your organisation falls within the remit of the EU GDPR, because there are different rules for schools and hospitals and different organisations, then you have to show compliance with the GDPR. And the way to show compliance is to say that A, you understand what the GDPR means to you, and you have to have reviewed all of your activities inside your business such that your customers can choose either to give their consent by opting in, which is what all the emails are about, or you can opt out and say, I no longer want you to hold my personally identifiable information. But it only applies to data processors, also data controllers in the EU, and data processors, they're third-party data processors globally. So the onus is on the data controller in the EU, and the example I give to people is that if I'm here in Bangkok and I make a booking with the Mandarin Oriental or the Athénée, I'm giving you a name check, you owe me a free room. And I do that locally, then because I'm living in Bangkok and I'm booking it with you in Bangkok, that's between you and me. But if I make a booking with Booking.com, who are in Holland, and they make a booking and they transmit the booking to the Athénée, and they know my name and they know my passport number and they know more personally identifiable information, I can go into the Athénée hotel with a subject access request and say, tell me everything that you've got on me. They have 30 to 40 days to tell me what information they're holding. I can actually ask them to delete it. They have to be able to delete it. If they don't, there's a breach. If there's a breach, I go back to Booking.com and say, you have breached, one of your third parties is not compliant, I'm going to the statutory authority, they're going to come and talk to you very shortly. So that's the way it works. I hope that's in a nutshell.
So that means it does affect everyone in different ways. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of learning over the next 2 quarters anyway. I think one of the main points there is it's personally identifiable information. A lot of stuff we do on the internet is not personally identifiable.
Correct.
Although there's a bit of a grey area because with Google Analytics tracking, which it's up practically on everything, they're allowed to do that without any further changes as long as it's just for looking at website traffic, website behaviour, stuff like that. But as soon as they start using it for remarketing and chasing you around, it's deemed as personal identifiable information, though technically it's not. When I'm doing an ad, I have no idea who you are. I'm just doing my ad based on your behaviours, and hopefully I'm getting Jacqueline right from Jack.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. I went to another event, similar topic, which a chap made the statement of the Cambridge Analytica and the Facebook scandal. I think people are under the impression that the data leak was people's personal information being leaked out and that sort of stuff. But in reality, I don't think it was. I think it was just a case of people not understanding how Facebook actually always had targeted people. Is that correct? What was the actual scandal?
I think the scandal was people A, didn't know how much information was held about them, and B, they didn't like the result of it, i.e. someone was elected. Had he not been elected, I don't think it would have been such a big issue. That's personal, maybe it would have been. I think in terms of what happened there, the data was actually provided as part of the survey, so it was actually given in good faith, and they were not aware what it was going to be used for.
So to me, it sounds a bit like Y2K. You know, there was a load of kerfuffle up to it, and then it was nothing. And with this again, if they don't actually know who you are, but they know that you've got big feet, and therefore they market big shoes to you, what's the worry? What's the problem?
I don't think this is actually aimed at marketing. The GDPR is aimed at personal information. A survey they did last week in the EU, about 6,000 people, the main concern they had was that people wanted to actually write in and have people delete their credit card information, their security numbers, stuff like this. So it is personal information. I think advertising has just been caught up on it. It's gone probably a lot further than what people expected, and asking you to actually say, yes, I don't mind you using my information, that I like this, it's just crazy, but it's the way it is. I think the difference between this and Y2K is that you get fined, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of lawyers out there, litigation lawyers, just looking for people to prey on.
Does this mean that when you sign up for something on the internet, quite often it's a repeatable charge against a credit card, annual charge against a credit card? Does that mean that information is going to be gone and they're going to automatically stop?
No, if you give consent. But when you start buying stuff, they start asking you give consent. As long as you give consent, you're fine. I think with the internet, what they do right now in the EU, the cookie law's been out for 3-4 years, and basically it says we've got a cookie and we keep information about you, and you just say yes, okay. It'll probably be the same thing. In fact, it will be the same thing. But now they have to tell you what they're going to use it for. So that banner will say, we take your information and we keep it for advertising, blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, look at our privacy policy. And then the privacy policy on a page that no one ever looks at will actually tell you a bit more. And some people will go in there and request to delete it, and 99% will not.
Okay, thanks.
Hopefully. Or a map job.
So 10 years ago, none of us knew anything about this. What's going to happen in 10 years' time?
Good question. Ask me later, I'm not. Who knows? 10 years ago, we wouldn't believe we were here now. Data's gone crazy, it'll only get better. I showed you the thing where the petabytes and the yottabytes and God knows what. I don't know where it's going to stop.
Can I just comment on this as that horrible thing, a data protection lawyer?
Really?
No, I mean, I've seen how this has played out in the last 6 months in the UK, and a lot of companies are paying money to lawyers to check out their website, check out their procedures, check out this and the other. That's going to carry on for about another year for all the people who haven't done it already. And that's going to give enough time for the data protection authorities to work out their strategies. And they've got teeth. And I think I echo what, it won't happen immediately, but 6 months, 12 months' time, there are going to be high-profile cases of people being prosecuted.
Yes, great point, thank you. And it is high profile in the UK because that's the UK. Because the Daily Mail, if you take that as an example, would love to run their story as a banner headline. And we've seen what's happened to companies like TalkTalk. Yeah, sure, 20% of their market value has been wiped off in an instant because of a breach.
And I think the other side of it is it is seeping around the whole of the world because there are so many levels at which it's connected with Europe. And then it's going to become a global thing, and then it's going to be a contractual issue. There's going to be all sorts of cases. Whenever anybody has a problem, it will feed through in the way that you were describing, of being a breach of this contract, a breach of that contract, between somebody in the EU and somebody in Thailand, somebody in India, somebody somewhere else. And there is going to be a contractual issue which could be quite large.
Well, on Monday, I had somebody come to my office pleading for me to help them. They said they would pay whatever it took to get a questionnaire completed within the 24 hours. And what had happened, they'd had an email from their client in the UK who said, please confirm that you are GDPR compliant or we will cease doing business with you. And this person was desperate to fill the questionnaire out and to find out what the right answers were so that she could continue their business. So it's down to the people in the UK, the data controller generally, to make sure that their third-party data processors are compliant.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's definitely got a worldwide effect. Obviously, everyone in Europe's panicking. The next 2 quarters or so, we're going to see what happens. I think that the authorities will growl a little bit, but I don't think they're going to be too harsh on anybody in the first couple of quarters.
Yeah, I think that the key word, sounds like you're better quieter. The key word is compliance. Yeah, so you have to be able to show that you have taken steps to understand the law and identified every area in your business that could be at risk. So, for instance, the Manchester police, allegedly, you still use Windows 95. Yeah, and so is the latest aircraft carrier that the UK launched. That's still running an old version of Windows. So there are many people who are at risk of a breach because they're using software that's out of date. So that's a typical example where you need to go through the whole business and identify where you are at risk of your information being breached.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me like a witch hunt anyway. In the UK, we pride ourselves on keeping records. We have done for hundreds of years. So you can find out exactly how much you paid for the house that you live in. You can find out everyone's telephone number. You only go 192.com and put somebody's name in. It tells you their telephone number, where they live. Then you can search that house and find out how much they paid for it. All that's available anyway. So
I think that's the whole idea. Something. That's the whole idea now. Is that if you don't want it to be available, you can ask it to be removed.
That's the directory.
Yeah. But the whole thing is that there's so much information on everybody now. You can actually go find out anything about anybody.
Yeah.
And for most people, it will remain. But the GDPR will say if you don't like what it is, you can ask for it to be removed, and it has to be removed. On Facebook, for instance, you can go into your settings and you can download your data, and you can ask them to remove that. It takes them 90 days at the moment. I don't know if that will actually be compliant with the GDPR, but if it won't, they'll speed it up.
GDPR doesn't say a period of time, it doesn't say 1 year or something, it says like a reasonable time. But the industry generally, I'm talking to advertisers, talking about, generally, people are reckoning you have to justify more than 1 year if you're keeping pace.
Data on Google Analytics, for instance, they actually apply a rule now where they will automatically delete stuff unless you say don't after a particular period, which is 18 months.
So is tomorrow the end of the yellow pages?
Who knows? It depends how compliant they are. They cannot say that they asked for the data. They may have done, because a lot of people pay. If you're paying for something, you've obviously given consent.
Yeah,
if you're paying to be somewhere.
But some people want to be. Because they want to fly out someone else, they need to give consent for them to be there as well. Vice versa, two ways.
The consent needs to be from the person whose data has been held, not from the person looking for it. If you want to take your data off and you don't want to be found, you won't be found.
Yeah. So with our directorate, some people ask me, will people look at me? So would you like to look at others? They say yes, then you have to be in there.
Why would anyone want to share their data then? What's the benefit of sharing data? Is it when you go to a website and it says to continue viewing, click here? Does it mean you're not allowed to then view their website? Why would anyone voluntarily share data for no benefit?
By telling them they can't say no, you can't view my website because you don't accept my cookies. It will just come up. The difference now as well with the cookies. Cookies normally run as soon as you load your web page. That's the first thing they do. But that's going to change. They won't run until you've accepted them. So you will still see the website and it won't know that you've. I won't know you've looked. Fine, some people will do that. Most people don't really care and they just click, and that would probably carry on. One of the benefits of actually having your data collected is that you get offers, you get special offers about things you like, all these things. We're all growing used to it. People don't like ads when they're not relevant, and that's what it was in the past. When you're getting relevant ads that grab your attention, they've got stuff you want that you didn't because of your behaviour, people react. And I think the whole idea is if you get less intrusive about what you do, people accept it and like it.
With the breach that's happened with Facebook and the Analytica, what was the crime? What happened? What did they do with that?
There wasn't a crime.
That's what I mean. To me, it's Y2K. It really is.
There certainly wasn't a crime. Okay, they said that you used data without consent. It wasn't illegal. No one's been sent to prison.
That's what I mean. If somebody died or somebody lost their savings, their whole life savings, then perhaps you'd understand this witch hunt. But to spend, I mean, you went short of telling us what the budget was on that department, but that's how ridiculous the whole thing seems to me. I mean,
in terms of the budget from what's happening over there, I think that's because of the potential to pay 4% fine of you, and that's why they.
No, I understand the reason that they're spending it, but to me it just seems.
Yeah. I think the the issue was that it was political, and on everything in politics there's a winner and a loser, and the loser's always going to complain, and they complained that allegedly someone won because of that. That was probably part to do with it, but who knows? He may have won anyway.
My view, you've used the word witch hunt. I mean, my view is it's about data privacy, and in this regard, the EU, my opinion, seems to be ahead of the USA. So they're bringing in data privacy regulation, which is best practice, which actually says to everybody, clean up your act, find out what you've got, is it accessible? If somebody gives consent, then they've given consent. If they haven't and they want to opt out, then you've got to be able to show the ability to remove those records from your business or organisation. So I wouldn't say it was a witch hunt. I mean, it's, as I said, the key word is compliance. You've got to show an understanding of the regulation and show you have taken the right steps. But there's no time limit on it.
Yeah. I think the point there as well is that there's a lot of information held about us that we don't want shared, we don't want to have. And up till now, people haven't had the right to have it removed. They can ask 500 times, and if the company says no, or I've deleted it. This thing with Cambridge Analytica, it passed through several companies, and they all said they've deleted it. Now, I think with the GDPR, they have to prove they've deleted it. I think that's the case, where in the past. And things like Google and stuff, where the depth of knowledge they've got all over the place. I mean, to go around and delete stuff is a nightmare in itself.
So what will happen the next day here in Thailand? For example, in tourism sector, hotels, they keep a lot of data when people book their stay there. Immigration, the Thai government, they wanted to keep a lot of personal details for people who are coming through the airport. And in many cases, they believe that it's not relevant because we are in Asia, we're not in Europe. So what they should do the next day?
Okay, that's a very good question actually, which I'm going to pass on, because let's see the British government fine the Thai government for keeping immigration details on someone from the UK.
Okay. So to answer your question, off the record, nothing is going to happen tomorrow in Thailand with information that they've collected in Thailand. The issue is if they're a data processor or a data controller and they transmit it to an EU organisation, then they have to show compliance. So, as by example, if I'm booking a hotel here with the Athene, then that's between me and the hotel Athene. And similarly with the examples that you gave. But if the organisation then is transmitting that to an EU partner, then they have to show compliance with GDPR.
Sorry, what's the timeline again of the compliance process?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
When you wake up.
We have time for us to comply.
Yeah, as Paul's. No, you don't.
You've had 2 years to comply.
Yeah. But as Paul said, or somebody said, is that there'll be a period of time. I mean, each country has what they call a supervisory authority. And in the UK, it's the ICO. If you go on to www.ico.co.uk, there is a wealth of information there about what you should do. So for many SMEs or the people here in this room, I think you can do it yourself. There are apps, there are many people online that will give you a health check. If you're a larger organisation, then you might benefit from having somebody to give you specialist advice. If you're a big organisation, then under GDPR, there is a requirement to appoint a data protection officer who reports directly to the CEO. So the DPO will be the person in large organisations who will have the responsibility of making sure that there's compliance throughout their whole business. But that's only for companies with employees of more than 250 people.
Yeah, so that's the timeline I meant. I mean, we still have a bit of time to prove that we...
Well, yes, you do. You have to show compliance.
Yeah.
So you have to say that you've read the regulation, that you've had meetings, that the CEO has set up a task force, say, that you have governance in place, you know what software you're using, you know where all this information is, you have the ability to people to opt in or opt out, you have the ability to delete it, and all the other requirements. So you've had 2 years to do that. So you'll need to show compliance as from today or tomorrow that you're putting that in place.
Do they have to reconfirm all the databases that they have already? Do they have to send a message to all the people they have in the database, ask for concession, you mean?
Yeah, if they don't have their consent, they should technically write to them and ask for it.
Otherwise, they have to be able to prove that they have the consent.
Or they have to delete that information, is the rule right now, as far as I'm aware.
But they don't have to tell you what information they've got.
No, if they've got information on you, I believe they have to write to you and say we have information on you. I think a lot of companies that have that, I think a lot of companies are not going to bother doing it.
I don't, to the best of my knowledge, and this isn't legal advice what I'm giving you, I don't think you have to write to people. I think people are using it as a good opportunity for marketing, being cynical. I've had thousands of emails, and on the SkyTrain tonight I was unsubscribing from all of them because I was thinking, I don't want to hear from you ever again. And so a lot of companies are using the opportunity to market themselves or to reconnect with their customers. I don't believe there's a legal requirement for them to write to people and tell them we have your email address, for instance.
No, can I just clarify this? There's no obligation to write to people saying this is what your data is. I mean, that would think about that over the whole world. That would be an incredible. You've got to respond to people, and then there are time limits, and you've got to have a very good reason for not giving them all the information they ask for. There is a thing you can say, no, I can't give you all of the information because it would be extremely difficult to do it, but you've got to explain why.
Yeah, so there's a thing called a subject access request form. Yeah. So if I've done my booking through booking.com with a hotel, I can go to that hotel with a subject access request and email it to them and say, please tell me everything that you have on me, personally identifiable information. They then have 30 or 40 days to reply to that. If they don't reply to that, then I can go to the ICO or the supervisory authority in the EU that replies to the company where it's headquartered. So booking.com is in Holland, so you'd have to find the SA in Holland, and you could say there's been a breach. Now, what they would do thereafter is we don't know. But clearly they have maybe 200 officers or people working for them. They will have to decide how they deploy those people and which types of companies they want to target. Being cynical, personal view, is that they'll go for the big names because that's where they get the biggest publicity. And the fines, interestingly, fund their department. So those of us with some history in this area will know that actually getting fines means more people, or they hit their KPIs.
In terms of what's happening with Facebook, using custom audiences on Facebook, they've said to us that we need to have consent from lists that we already have, or we can't use them. So I don't know what that is with general information you have in a company, as perhaps something that you could actually tell us as it's your...
Well, I think, I mean, I'm not an expert on advertising on Facebook, but I think that the general thing is that consent itself isn't normally a problem, because you click on a button, and the button is the consent button.
No, I'm talking about stuff that we own already.
If you've got stuff already from before this regulation came in, then arguably, that's not
compliant. But we've been told it's not compliant. You have to go back and get consent, or you can't use it.
No, I don't think that's right. I don't think there's anything about retrospective consent. It's just that how are you going to tell? Is it going to be difficult to prove that this is old data, this is new data? Is it just easier to do it? I mean, these are the questions you need to ask yourself.
What's Facebook panicking right now? We don't have the same problems with Google.
Now, can I just say about this? So I'm talking a lot, and shut me up at somebody. But this thing with consent, the issue is not just about consent. It's consent to what? It's saying what you're going to do with the data and explaining it so that when you click on the button, you know what you're doing. That's where the shoe is going to pinch. That's the thing that they're going to follow up on. I think.
Yeah, but on websites, for instance, they're just adding an extra bit to the cookie warning, and then they're saying go to the privacy policy if you want to actually see all the rest.
Go to the privacy policy. Yeah.
And then we'll tell you what we're going to do with it. But we're not going to tell you on the bit that you actually say yes, I hear us, okay.
Yes, you're right. It's consent to specific marketing. So if they tell you specifically at the time consent for marketing purposes, they can only use that for those marketing purposes that are specified. If at a later date they want to use your information for something different or separate, then they have to ask for your specific consent again to that.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm just going to clarify. I don't know if everyone fully understands everything Paul's talking about, but cookie data is just